here at CSD to take a look at how we can work together and prepare our students for the real world post graduation with the certified track so that they're prepared for life.
If you don't mind, do you need water?
Yes.
Sorry about that. We'll get you a water.
No worries.
I want to expand on that. One part of what you said, I do want to expand, talk about students and alternate curriculum and academic and college and teachers having the broad spectrum of those. But how do you make sure you meet all of those? I mean, teachers sometimes say, oh, I prefer this. I don't want to work with that. How do you get it all in alignment? What does that look like?
Thank you. You know, one thing I'd like to ask the community, what's working and what is not working, and how can we meet the needs of the student? Today on the tour, and even in my first interview, I did ask about the students and if they're taking classes, specifically high school students, if they're taking classes off campus. The answer at the time was no. Is that correct? College? Oh, Ohlone. Okay, Ohlone College. But I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for us to collaborate with the local high schools that have the different kind of classes they're saying in the back that they used to. Okay, that's fine. But for me, again, that type of question I would ask, why, if you used to do it, why stop? I'm sure there's a reason, but I want to figure out if we can make it work again, if we can send students to take different types of classes that we don't have available here. Maybe we don't have enough teachers, or maybe we don't have the right kind of content to teach. But I remember as a teacher, I would teach things and they wanted to take specific classes. And at the time as a principal, I would say, okay, collaborate with the local high school and have them take an AP class or a different kind of vocational class that at our school we do not have available. So many students at that time were fascinated. Other classrooms that students were interested in was child development. There was one that took several classes at a local high school. So is that possible to recreate and give that opportunity for our high school students? I would love to try that and make it happen.
Thank you. Share your views on why student life is so important to CSD.
And I grew up 2 years at a deaf school in a dorm. And that's actually where I really grew as finding my identity as a deaf person was through student life, through those activities, through school and after school activities and all the social interactions and realizing I am deaf and understanding of the different cultures and the different backgrounds of each individual. And then I became a teacher. And I absolutely support athletics and after school programs and uplifting those and because I know that many of those students, this is their home. Many of the students that come and live in the dorms from Sunday to Friday, they have full access to communication here. There are many families that do sign, but at the same time, there is full access to communication here. So the students are getting that experience through student life, have an opportunity to learn from other deaf adults, other role models who provide feedback and support and coaching them and making better decisions, like making better choices. And that's why student life is important. You know, activities like going on to sporting events like this weekend, having those relationships with the deaf community. That's why student life is so important. It's one of the foundations for deaf schools.
The buildings we have here are very old and built before the ADA law was put in place, and many of the buildings are falling apart and sorely need to be replaced. What is your experience with working with the state to get things fixed? And are you willing to help with replacing the buildings with new and ADA compliant buildings? but assist with the ongoing plan, also assist with the ongoing plan to replace cottages?
My first and simple answer is yes, I am more than happy to help. And the reason being is if we have strong operations and facilities, and then the quality of your lives and your work and the students' lives will be better. Now, one of my responsibilities right now in the current school is facilities. 2 years ago, we recently just invested $3 million on renovating the bus loop for the pickup and drop off location, and a new parking lot for staff as well. So $3 million, and it wasn't minute. It went through the city, went through the zoning board. We had to get a stamp of approval, then the city building inspectors, and then water and trenching and foundation. And where we built the parking lot, it's called the kind of like a wetlands area. So we had to get a special permit. And then asphalt, we got to have a special kind of design that can drain. So, what, about a year and a half ago, we had also invested $800,000 into new HVAC systems. Now, what's different between the Learning Center and here? The Learning Center is a private school, which means we do not have to go to the state, but there are certain things we still have to go through. However, I know here I'm aware from different people today that everything takes a long time. But okay, how can we make that shorter? Right? How can we make that process shorter and quicker? So what I take a look at is the master plan. I mean, what's the plan for regular maintaining of the buildings and not to continue to put it off? What are the priorities that we need to focus on and that we need to work with the facilities team? We need to work with, was it Tosha, the business manager? We need to take a look at prioritizing the needs and addressing the emergencies. And then the long-term plan, which would include cottages and the different buildings that really need to be focused on. I mean, this campus is beautiful already, but maintaining it long-term, we need to make sure we have a long-term plan here.
So this is regarding removing the culture of suspending our students. Suspension is not the answer, especially for our Black and Brown students. The Oakland Unified School District had great success with their restorative justice practice. How do you envision implementing the restorative justice practice here at CSD?
I have a question, and I've asked the first group the same question. How many of you have the app called Peacock? You know, that you can watch films on? You can watch movies, Peacock? Okay, there's a documentary that is on Peacock. It is called Black Boys. Who has seen that film? No? All right. Now, I got some homework for all of you. The film is about an hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes. I watched it 3 years ago. And wow. I mean, there was a huge discussion on regarding Black men and Black students in their lives. A lot of discussion about school to prison pipeline. And incredibly powerful film. You should watch this film. It really changed how I think we work with our BIPOC students. Now, I actually had my staff watch it, the supervisors, and I told the supervisors, start having a conversation with your team after you watch the film to discuss how we can really support our Black and Brown students. So now, last year, as part of my responsibilities, we took a look at school discipline. Now, school discipline was really prior to COVID, had not been updated. So it was very behind, outdated, and based on white privilege, based on suspension and punishment. So we wanted to revise that because what I experienced as a person and what I've seen as a person, it wasn't a fit. So what we did was set up a committee, got feedback from students, got feedback from staff, parents, and set up a committee. Now, ironically, we did a lot of research online on Google, looking for restorative justice. Which school came up? Oakland. Oakland's model, I mean, what they have, all the information they have, the resources, the approach that they use on their website, I pulled and instilled into our own, where we created the system, where we got rid of the word or the term code of conduct. We changed it to behavioral expectations. It's becoming more of a positive mindset where they're like, oh, it's not code of conduct, like punishment, right? Now, the structure is set up where there's levels of support from level 1 all the way up to level 5. And at level 1, it's more of like a engagement, interaction, having to sit down. Let's say if the student rebels and leaves classroom and walks out of the classroom, is upset. In the past, they'd be punished, right? But no, now we sit with the teacher, have a conversation. What are you frustrated about? Have that interaction. And then it gets to level 2 and forward. So the result of that work was changing the handbook for processing student support and discipline. So the number of suspicions last year went down to just 2. The 2 suspensions last year were based on state requirements regarding drugs and alcohol. So cut and dry with that. They were suspended because of that. No tolerance on that, but just now more of an interaction. And now the students see the benefit of that and have continued how we can support our students. Now, we do need to maintain that and change the culture on how we can support and work with students. But first, and again, I recommend going back to watching that film.
Next question. Please share a time where trauma occurred and what practices did you do to support healing?
Think of a situation. We've had a lot of staff that have experienced trauma the last few years related to COVID, with racism. Now, as a white person, I do know that I am privileged, and at the same time, I do ensure that I am available for my staff. And my first thing to do is listen, show empathy. And then, hey, how can I help you? I've noticed, and based on my experience, some people say, oh, I just want to vent. And some say, I need help. I say, okay, we'll see what we can do. And I will ensure you that I will find help to support the staff, but really specifically empathy and listening to people, and that's what I primarily do.
Okay. What is your plan for student enrollment and to increase the number of students that CSD serves? Additionally, how will you work with outreach to boost our recruitment of our students, given that it's been low for the last few years?
So 2020, about 2022. Now, hold off on COVID, but prior to that, I'm a numbers person. I always like to ask questions regarding data because I want to know. Let's say 10 years back, the numbers. How many students were enrolled from each department? What's the trend? I need to know. I need to get the information from the community. Have them share that. Did they move out of state? Were the families not happy with the services here? I want to know the trend every year, what the numbers look like, to help create the question that I need to ask you all. Is it services that we do not have available that we need to implement? Can we fix it? Can we bring back, let's say, for example, I asked earlier about providing classes to students. They said they used to do that. Okay, if you used to do it, how can we change that to provide that service again? Same with seeing how we can retain our current students and recruit. Recruiting meaning working with outreach. Go to different areas all over Northern California and provide access for families. Now, I mentioned this to the previous group, and I'll say it again with this group. The CSD posts on social media are amazing. They're great on Facebook, Instagram. But there is one huge thing missing: access to families. I've seen the posts of the different events, the sports, and it's all in English. So many of the families here, they said 75 to 80% of our families here, their primary language might not be English. It could be Spanish or other languages. So where's that information for them? If I was a parent and I spoke Spanish and I looked through the app, let's say, for example, this event, it says, meet Chris. A simple translation, maybe add a second picture, right? So they can swipe through to between the two. But we got to include the families. We got to provide that so they can appreciate it, think about their own, and available to come to these events. We need to reach out to them, provide it through Zoom, a different time of day. We've got to think about what will work, what we can try, and what we have not tried. So they also feel appreciated.
Next question. It's a long one. For staff development has fallen into a pattern. A topic is introduced, we break out into small groups and discuss what we already know. Then we return to the theater, report to the whole group. As professionals working with deaf children, we should be learning from other professionals in our field or adapting information learned from professionals who work with other groups of children, including hearing students. How will you change our current routine to make staff development more beneficial to staff?
Thank you. Have you heard the theme or the quote, shiny new toy? You know, you play with this brand new toy, and you see something new, a new toy. You get rid of the old toy that you were just playing with. You guys familiar with that? You know, all right? It's very common with professional development. Now, even at my own school, we would provide training and all these topics related to classroom management or even UBD, understanding by design, and how to develop unit plans of instruction. So, as an example, this really happened as a principal at the time. I noticed my teachers, they have curriculum mapping experience, but not really understood how to develop unit plans that really help them revise to a daily lesson plan. So I noticed that, so I looked up UBD training. I brought the trainer in, and this trainer, you know, we trained him one time. It was all good, and then the department chair, who was on the secondary high school, said, "Hey, we need more." And I said, "Wait, need more?" Oh, we kind of just stopped with it. Yeah, I asked people. I said, you know, who are the experts in the different fields, and said, "Hey, make a video and explain, because we can't be redundant with new staff that are hired. If they come in next year, how are we going to train them? We need to have a video ready. And then the department chair can support that new person. But back to the shiny new toy, we don't want to drop it and get rid of it. We want to make it part of the culture here, have ongoing support, ongoing training, and accountability. If a supervisor keeps themselves accountable to support their teachers and TAs and staff, then you all will be able to maintain working on that instead of just dropping up every new shiny toy. So we want to set up those expectations.
Previously, our staff evaluated supervisors. At some point, this stopped. Do you believe that evaluations are beneficial to all, including administrators?
I wonder, why did that stop? First off. Secondly, is it allowed now? Nancy did tell me that it is allowed. But I'm wondering what's the purpose. First, I'd like to understand the purpose of the feedback. Because first off, I always believe that my staff can come and talk to me. If someone feels strongly, that's fine. I need to listen and work with them. And at the same time, I know if staff feels example. there's an issue or a challenge, bring it to my attention. Support your supervisor, work with them. But how can we develop these evaluations? Is it tools for growth? I mean, if I were to evaluate someone who is my supervisor, I would like for them to know how I feel. So what would happen then? Because they could just toss it and not care. Or we can get support from their supervisor and figure out what kind of feedback they're giving you. We want to set that up before we start doing it.
What does equity in the workplace look like to you?
How many of you have seen that picture online? It's a picture of the four kids. They're watching a baseball game. Yes, yes, it's not. Yes. That's one of my favorite pictures. It's how I believe in equal and equitable. It's my belief. So equal, does that mean that each kid, no matter their height, each kid can have one box that's each. And they are all each standing. So that tall kid, he can stand on the box and still watch the baseball game, but the shorter kid is blocked by the pole. So that's equal. Now equitable means how they're accommodating. So like the kid can get three boxes to see over while the tall kid doesn't need three. He's game, he's fine. So this picture really impacted how I view equitable access for all students here and staff to ensure that they have that experience. Where if you feel that you have the support that you need and the things that you need, and if there's something that someone that does not need, someone is different than I do, that's cool. But be supportive and teaching and having training and learning.
What methods do you use to keep CSD staff current on important matters? Also, the CSD as a community at large have first of all, regular messaging in the community through bilingual, the bilingual in ASL and in English, sending a message via email, with sign language, posting on social media, community information, newsletters, learning information, learning regular meetings in the community. I've seen some schools be successful with town hall meetings, with superintendent forums. Now, if there's something that you all would like, I would ask questions, as well as with the community, try to meet with leaders. Oh, we work today, there's six of agencies, or eight, there's eight. So there's eight agencies. I would like to try to work with those agencies all over Northern California, collaborate with them. If I was chosen as superintendent, I would go and work with them and figure out how we can continue to work together. Because we're all here for the same reason, and it's to provide services to deaf youth here in Northern California. Now, at the same time, what information do you need? Come in the hallway or outside, say, hey, why don't you do this? I say, great, thank you. I appreciate the feedback and I would acknowledge who shared that feedback with me in the meeting. So it's important to show transparency here. What strategies would you employ to recruit or retain employees at CSD? We are forecasting to lose many employees within 5 to 10 years when they hit their retirement.
Yes, very common. A lot of deaf people are experiencing the same challenge. That's not unique to just CSD. I do want to share a story on how I became a teacher. I was in grad school in Gallaudet, and then I found out at Model Secondary School that I'm looking for a social studies teacher, history teacher, and what happened is that I'm a fellowship program. Now, that program collaborated with the Clark Center, which then collaborated with Gallaudet University to cover tuition costs of any teacher that they hired. opportunity to continue school with being tuition free. Now, it's been my dream. I mean, I haven't been able to make it work at other schools. It's been a struggle for different reasons. But I really, really would like to push for that because I know in the state of California, there's several different resources available through CSDF to provide community education, grad programs. I want to provide that for the deaf as well. And if that person aims to become a teacher or some other role within deaf schools, great. Well, what barriers are there? Is it money? Is it availability of the training, grad programs? Are there any in California or around the country? I want to look at how we create that pipeline. And I think we need to look into working with colleges and universities all over to recruit their teachers. And I know it's also competitive with other deaf schools, right? Because they are all going to the same colleges to get their teachers. So we need to look at working with other deaf schools and collaborate to uplift the deaf community so we can create the pipeline within the state and across the country. And then continue working with the state on what kind of resources and support we can provide to teachers to get the credentials to complete their certification requirements. I know it's a challenge. The state of California is one of the most difficult ones to get a teacher's credential. So how can we help those teachers? Okay, what's your experiences working with diversity and inclusion for all students and families? Additionally, please share your experience and how you celebrate and recognize diverse communities. I've experienced working in schools, working with families is one of the biggest goals that the staff takes to have here, what, 6, 7 hours a day, but some students are here all day, all where they're at, where they're at home. And make sure they have the support they need. Now, again, recently, a few questions ago, I mentioned one of the challenges I noticed where the accessible education for families. That's one big step. And how do we ensure that we can provide a for families that speak a different language? That's one area already. And that's going to be an easy fix, providing that access. So they have that and be able to meet halfway. Because you can't expect people to come out here. What? You guys got to do your part as well. Like California is strong on anti-bias. Fortunately, at our school, the elementary principal did have a training anti-bias education here in Fremont several years ago and brought it to the Learning Center. And we started to implement anti-bias education, recognizing, celebrating values, different family traditions, and family cultures alike, while recognizing the different diverse students. And that way we can model what we practice, what we preach, model what we preach. And if that's the one question, we're all done. Now, I believe we may have for possibly one or two more questions. Do you have questions from the audience? Really? Okay, hold on, hold on. Lily, can you come down? Yeah, question. Hello, hello. Congratulations on your retirement. Yeah, you were right. Oh, yeah. Uh, so last question, I'm not sure if you've seen this question before, but what made you decide to apply for the position here at Fremont? Fine. I want to give Lily the opportunity to see my answer. Why not? That's what she would answer. But I've worked at many deaf schools. This has to be my fourth deaf school, and I already had experience working at federal schools, secondary schools for deaf, and after deaf. Maryland was a state school, and now learning to go to private school. So I feel like I have the experience of learning what works and how they operate at the federal level, and then at the state level to the private. And then I took the decision based on that OEA. So I wanted to kind of experience, and I've always looked at moving up somewhere as superintendent in the US and the opportunity arose, and I said, okay, well, West Coast, I've never done that East Coast. So I thought, you know what, why not? Have the opportunity. Oh,
Thank you very much, and thank you for your honesty. You know, people would say, oh, we could have wonderful positive reasons. I mean, clear and straight to the point. Any other questions? Yes, you'll be our last. Listen, this will be our last. Hi, I'm Jay. You stopped by my workshop class.
you built the phone, you're making the box.
Correct. Correct. The question with regard to programming, I don't know, maybe for all of you, for CTE, what do you see right now? We're on a shift to college, but college is for everyone. We need more training. We need more. What is your plan, your vision for CTE program?
My vision is to keep do not go winning. Keep looking at what's working, add, expand, fix it. You know, we need trends. We need blue collar workers. We need vocation. I think several alumni are working here in construction and facilities and have that experience from real world programs and CTE thanks to Fremont. I mean, we were not looking at it all. And I think I mentioned this to you earlier. Remember, we talked about having to close our construction program at our school. I mentioned it to someone else then, but we used to have, it's not as tough here as it is here in Fremont, but the reason why we had to close it because the teacher left. The teacher got a better job in their school, who was also deaf and had an OSHA certification. State of Massachusetts requires vocational teachers to teach that to have prior work experience. And it's a challenge how to find someone who works with those trades and are willing to become a teacher. And there's not many. So trying to advertise and find someone, unfortunately, we had to close that. But instead, what we did was take a look at statistics from uh, Bureau of Labor Statistics, the federal government, under the Department of Labor. We took a look at what the trends were for the next 20 years in the workforce. There's a big shift in STEM. So maybe we need to add more. But from what I saw today, you've got engineering class, you got biotechnology class, and it's working great. Keep it going and keep up with the trends as well.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everybody. And go Eagles. Yes, everyone have a great night. Go Eagles.
So you know, one student. One student? Yeah. One student.